Hi there, welcome to That Board Game Show. My name is James Wood, and today I'm going to show you Tiny Epic Cthulhu, a game of spinning madness for 0 to 4 players. Yes, the game can play itself. Designed by Scott Almes and published by Gamelin Games. An ancient evil is stirring on the outskirts of the sleepy town of New Arkhamoore, taking hold of the citizens and turning them mad. It's our job as the players to enter into this mad, infested town and wrangle these crazed citizens back into a semblance of sanity, while trying to translate the pages of the Necronomicon, otherwise known as the Book of the Dead, to understand how we can then close the portals through which this madness is leaching. Ultimately, there are 6 portals that we have to close in order to vanquish the Great Old One. There are several Great Old Ones in the box. I'm playing with Cthulhu today, which might be a bit foolhardy because he is the toughest of all of them. We have several others over here that we can play with. We've got Yig, Nyarlathotep, and Yog-Sothoth. As you can see, various forms of horrific. As you play the game, you're going to be defeating the minions of these Great Old Ones, and then eventually closing the 6 portals through which they are entering our realm. And how we're going to be doing that is we are going to be running around the map, collecting these tentacle tokens to use those as information. Basically, these are representing the information we're gathering to translate these pages of the Necronomicon. You'll see we have one face up here as part of setup. As you can see, I've already done the setup. And we have several face down pages over here. These will get revealed as we move to those locations. Now today I am playing with a couple extra add-ons because one, I am playing the Deluxe Edition of Tiny Epic Cthulhu, which includes the Astral Artifacts little promo pack mini expansion. And that is what these cards over here, the gold coins, the monolith, the eye, the amulet, and the key are. So those don't come in the base game, and they're just a little extra bonus that helps you along as you play the game, and you'll see how they work as we go. The other thing I'm playing with today is I'm also including the Cult of Chaos expansion, which introduces this cultist mat over here, this cultist token over here, which is added to the map during setup, and a couple extra tentacles in this tentacle draw bag. You can hear there's a whole bunch of stuff in there, a whole bunch of madness waiting to come out. And it also introduces several new Great Old Ones that you can fight against. In fact, I have them over here. It includes 2 new town locations that you can visit. The observatory and the shrine. It also introduces several new characters: the astronomer, the hunter, the cultist, and the student. And then numerous Great Old Ones: Basatan, Atlachnaka. I'm probably saying these names all completely wrong. I admittedly have pretty much no experience with the whole Cthulhu Lovecraft mythos, so this is about as much as I know about it, beyond the little smatterings you get in public media. We have Dagon and Mormo. And then that mat there, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, is part of a little variant way you can play the game with the Cult of Chaos expansion, where you can actually play as the cultists trying to raise up the Great Old One while the AI players try and fight against you. That's an alternate version of the solo game, which is what I will be showing you today. Not that alternate version, I'll be showing you the standard solo game. So pretty much everything you see today will apply to the base game. There's just a couple extra little steps from this Cult of Chaos expansion and these extra little tokens. ignoring what the effects of those are as we go, you'll get a sense of how the base game plays, because the basic rules stay pretty much the same. So let's put all of that to the side. There are several heroes in the base game, and I'm already bumping things all over the place. I am playing with only one of them today, technically. I am playing as the historian, and you will see that we have a little brain token over here. As the game progresses, this brain token can slide up as you progressively go more and more mad. If ever one of the player's tokens reaches this X at the top here, they have gone completely insane and we all lose the game. So you don't want that to happen. This historian has a special ability, may translate pages up to one location to the left or right from your current location. Now, that probably doesn't make any sense right now. It will become very clear how that's helpful as we play. So I am playing today as the historian, and I have with me an assistant playing in this solo game in the form of the scientist. You'll see the main difference is the assistant does not have a special ability at the bottom, and they have these numbers on their temperament tracks. I'll explain exactly how they work as I'm playing the game. I also have this handy dandy solo assistant card over here to help me remember how the solo assistant actually plays. So we will be referencing that and going through it step by step. Basically, you can play this game numerous different ways. You can play it solo, like I'm doing today, where you have one player character, and one assistant. You can also play it solo with two assistants. So I'm just using one today because of table space. But you can have two additional assistants helping you out as you go. You can also play it two-player with the assistants. So I think you can play two-player with, I think only one assistant, maybe two, I forget. And obviously you can also play it 3 or 4-player where you just play the different characters. Or, as I mentioned in the intro, you can play this game with 0 players, whereby you literally run 2 or 3 assistants, and they essentially have their little automated AI actions that they do, and you pretty much just spin the wheel and perform their actions, and they just do things and the game plays itself out. I have not experimented with that yet, but it sounds intriguing. I had actually considered doing that for this video, but decided against it because that way you don't get to see the player character special abilities and actually making informed, smart choices. So with all that said, I am just going to start playing out a few rounds to demonstrate what you're going to do on a turn, how it's going to play, and you'll very quickly see how the game works and what it does. So, the first thing we're going to do in the solo game is we're going to give the tentacle draw bag to the assistant over here. So that's how you determine the active player. They have the bag in front of them. And we will now go through this solo assistant card step by step. So the first thing we do is to spin the Wheel of Madness. So we spin the Wheel of Madness in the middle of the table over here. Whee! Whoops. And try and not destroy the entire town. Let's put you back. Then we resolve the Wheel of Madness in a specific order. The first thing we do is we resolve whatever action the front of the pointer is pointing at. The front is the one with this little pippy on it. And these all have different actions, which are all broken down on this discard mat over here. So this action tells us to draw +1 tentacle, which leads into the next step of spinning the wheel. We now draw tentacles at the location that the pointer is pointing to. So how many tentacles we draw is determined by the Great Old One's power level. So you will see here that the Great Old One, Cthulhu, currently makes us draw 3 tentacles. As he gets more and more powerful, we will be drawing more and more tentacles. Now, because of that pointer, we will draw 4 tentacles instead of 3. So we will draw them one at a time. We'll draw 1 and we put them on the madness tracks over here. 2, matching the colors, and 3. Okay, we have just drawn our first tentacle from the expansion. So that is a cultist tentacle. Whenever you draw one of those, you immediately place it on the discard mat over here. You move the cultist figure clockwise, 1 step, boom. They reveal the page card at the location that they just moved to, if it was face down. Then they will take a tentacle from the town card, depending on this track over here. So they will first take blue, and they'll place it on their track over there. When that fills up, something bad will happen. And you will see how that works later in the video. We need to draw one more tentacle. And oh, look, we drew another cultist tentacle. So that goes straight to the discard pile. The cultist moves over to my location. Now they will flip over this page card over here. And they want to draw red. They cannot, so therefore they don't do anything. If the tentacle they want to draw is not available, they just forego that action. So that was spinning the wheel and drawing tentacles. Now we will spawn a shambler. That's what these tokens over here represent. And you'll see we've already got a couple on the board. They are all screen printed and look very cool. But unfortunately, due to space and overhead cameras and things, they have to stand up. So you can still see the colors, but you probably can't see the actual things. So right now we are going to spawn a green shambler because the tentacle pointer, this is the back end of the pointer, that's considered the tentacle pointer, is pointing at this green shambler here. So we take one from the shambler mat, a green shambler, and we place it in the top of the shambler track over there. I believe, I could be completely wrong, I believe the shamblers are people that have been turned into monsters by the madness that's consuming them or something to that effect. Again, I don't know the law. So any Lovecraft fans out there can drop in the comments what all of this actually means. Okay, so we have spun the wheel and resolved all the steps. We now go to phase 1, follow the actions in order. And phase 1 means that this game is played over 2 phases. In phase 1, our whole objective is to translate all of these pages of the Necronomicon. How we do that is we discard tentacles at locations to translate these page cards, and then we put the matching numbered tokens on, well, we put these tokens on the matching numbers over here. Once this is filled up, we will flip the Great Old One to its other side. In fact, I'll just show that to you now. So it will flip over to its phase 2 side, and that's when it will reveal these 6 portals that we then need to close in order to win the game. So phase 1, translate the Necronomicon. Phase 2, close the portals. That's basically how it goes. And it is a lot harder than it sounds. So first step on the assistant's turn is to collect. They will first collect greed, which is green. So they will collect a greed token over here. This is the assistant's little scientist figure hiding out in the inn. Every location has a special ability, and I'll read those out and explain them as I use them. So they have collected. They will then move. They will move the shortest distance towards the front pointer, so that is over here. Your base move is 1, plus however many blue fear tentacles you have. So your fear increases your speed. The more scared you are, the faster you run. Makes sense. Your rage increases the number of tentacles you manipulate when you banish shamblers, which you will hopefully see fairly soon. And your greed determines how many tentacles you can collect when you do the collect action. So right now, doing this collect action, they collected 1 tentacle. Now the next time they collect, if they still have this greed tentacle, they will draw 2 tentacles instead of just 1. So the next thing they do is move. They will move the shortest path they can towards this front pointer. They have no blue tentacles, so they will only move 1. Then they will draw tentacles. They will draw madness tentacles from the draw bag equal to the number of shamblers at the location they moved to, in this case 0. Then they will reveal the page card at their current location. Then they will attempt to translate the page card at their current location. To translate a page card, you discard tentacles, which they will do right now because they have these 2 chaos tentacles. As part of setup, we got a few of these on our player mats. That varies depending on the number of players you have, how many you start with. So these chaos tentacles can be used in various ways by the players. The only way the assistant uses them is as wild tentacles, which we can do as well as players, to translate pages and to banish shamblers. So they are going to discard these 2 chaos tentacles and this 1 greed tentacle. So the 2 chaos are representing the 2 red tentacles they needed to discard over here. And then the green is representing the green. Green tentacle goes to the discard mat over here. The chaos tentacles go off to the general supply, and there are certain ways that those can come back into the discard mat and get replenished into the bag. So now they have translated this page. It comes over next to their card. We place tokens on 1, 2, and 4. So we'll place a token on 1, on 2, and on 4. And as these columns and rows fill up, we will get these additional chaos tentacles onto the discard mat, which will then eventually find their way back into the bag, and that is very helpful. And then the colored runes here matter during phase 2, and for the cultists. You'll see how that works as we play. Then the assistant has translated a page. They will attempt to banish a shambler in their current location. They cannot, because there are none, so their actions are done. We will place a new face down page card over there, and play will proceed to me. We will hand the tentacle bag over to me, and I will start my turn by spinning the Wheel of Madness. So every turn for every player starts by giving the Wheel of Madness a spin. Boing! And again, that is going to tell us to draw 1 additional tentacle. So instead of 3, we are drawing 4. We're going to put a red and a green and a chaos. So that goes straight to the discard mat, and he moves over, reveals the page card. He wants red, so he can take that. 1 more, another chaos tentacle. There are 5 of them in the bag during setup, so there's only 1 more left. So they will move again, and ironically they're actually helping us right now because they are revealing the page cards, which we need to know where we need to go. So thank you, cultist, you're actually helping us at the moment. I'm sure that's not their intention. Now we will spawn a shambler, and you can see here it's kind of pointing between, keep bumping it. If it's pointing like on a join between 2 things, you always just go to the next clockwise place from where it's pointing. So in this case, that will spawn a blue shambler at this location. And I've just realized I made a mistake in my last turn. When I spawned this green shambler over here, Cthulhu was meant to move over to where the shambler is located. So he should have been there. Fortunately, that did not affect our turns in any way. Now, blue shambler has just spawned over there. So now he will tentacle his way over to there. And it is now my turn to do things. Okay, so on my turn, I am going to do up to 3 actions. And the actions I can perform are to collect tentacles from my current location, to translate a page by discarding the matching tentacles, to banish a shambler by rolling the dice and trying to banish the shambler, potentially discarding tentacles. With the Cult of Chaos expansion included, we can attempt to banish these cultists once they start spawning on the board. And you can also move. Movement is the other thing you can do. I am actually going to be able to translate this page right here. So my first action is I'm going to collect this greed tentacle. Now that I have a greed tentacle, I can collect again, and I will collect 2 tentacles instead of 1. So I'm now going to collect 2 blue fear tentacles, like so. My third action, I'm going to discard 2 blue and a green and 1 chaos tentacle in order to translate this page over here and translate pages 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we'll put little tokens on 1, 2, 3, and 4. And there is rain. I don't know if you can hear that on the microphone, but it is really coming down outside all of a sudden. You can probably hear that, but oh well. It adds ambience to the game. It is raining in New Arkhamoore. So, our Chaos Tentacle goes to the general supply. These 3 go to the discard mat. Now I have done my 3 actions, but one thing you can additionally do is you can always spend a Chaos Tentacle to perform an additional action, if you so choose. And playing solo, you'll see on our little solo reference card here, this should be next to my card, I can share tentacle resources. So if I'm in the same location as the scientist over there, I can use the madness tentacles on his mat as if they were on mine for translating pages, banishing shamblers, etc. That is a lot of rain. Or I can spend a chaos tentacle from my mat to perform an additional action with the scientist as if they're just a regular player. So they can move normally, they can collect, they can banish, etc. So, I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to hang on to this chaos tentacle for potential use later, and that is the end of my turn. We will replace that page card over there, and play will proceed to the assistant. So let's go through a couple more rounds until we can show you some extra things. Now, there's an example of the tentacle pointer landing between 2 points. So we will go to the next clockwise space. This one tells us to add a chaos tentacle to the discard mat. So that's one way that they come from the supply to there. Then we shall draw 3 tentacles at the location pointed to. So again, clockwise from where it's pointing. If it's between 2, that is 2 and 3. Ah, this is a black eldritch tentacle. Eldritch tentacles go over here on the big bad boss mat. And if we draw a third eldritch tentacle, so we have space for one more here, if we then draw a third one, they will increase their power, which will then start making us draw more tentacles as we go. And we'll take all of the tentacles from there into the draw bag. So it's kind of a good thing and a bad thing, because it also replenishes the draw bag with the tentacles we need to translate all the pages. Right, we will spawn a red shambler over here, and we will move the great old one over there. Cthulhu himself is wandering around town. Oh my. Now, a specific rule that hasn't come into play just yet, but I will mention it, is that a player can never enter, pass through, or stay in the same location as the Great Old One figure. So, if, for instance, he had moved over here, on my next turn, I would have to use my first action to move away from the Great Old One. You have to run away. The assistant works a little bit differently, basically to just simplify the way they work, to make them a little easier to manage. They pretty much ignore the Great Old One. So that's useful. We have done the spawny spawn, we have moved the Great Old One, they will now perform their actions. They will first collect, the only tentacle available is a blue, so they will take a fear. They will then move, and they want to move over here. Now they could move up to 2 spaces, but they will move 1 and stop, because they are now at the location where the tentacle is pointing. They will then draw tentacles. If they were shamblers at their current mat, they keep on running away from them, so they're not doing that. They will reveal the page card, ba-ding. They will attempt to translate that page. No way can they do that, because they can't use my tentacles, only I can use theirs. But even if that were the case, we still don't have enough between the 2 of us. They will banish shamblers. There are no shamblers to banish. That is the end of the assistant's turn. Bag comes back to me. I spin the wheel. That one tells us that we can move any one madness tentacle from the shambler mat to the discard mat. So that's where we can take these tentacles from up here and put them on the discard mat. And basically we want to be getting these off here and on here and into the bag, because the more of these there are, the easier it will be to translate these pages. It will also be likely to make us go mad quicker, And while looking over there, I just spotted that I filled up this column and I forgot to take that chaos tentacle and add it to the discard mat. Those are useful to get in the discard mat because they are wilds. What was I doing? This. Okay, bring one of these down. So at this point, I don't think it makes much difference. I'm just going to bring down a blue one. Boom. Then we will draw 3 tentacles. 1 is a green. 2 is another green. And a 3 is a red. Then we will spawn a green shambly over there. Kaplow. And then Cthulhu will go over there. One thing I could do at my current location, at the library, has this special action of flip over or discard 2 page cards of your choice. So if I didn't like the cards that are out here, like if this was just going to be way too difficult to do and you can't get the tentacles you need to pull off an action, then you could use that to discard some and replenish. Or what I typically have used that for is to actually reveal additional page cards. So right now that's not a super useful action. So I'm probably going to move away from here. In fact, I'm going to be a little bit nuts. Let's get in the spirit of the game and go a little bit mad, shall we? I'm going to draw 1 tentacle, a Baloo tentacle over there, because that then increases my speed. I'm then going to move, and I can move up to 2 spaces. I'm going to move 1, 2 over to here. And now, because I ended my turn in a space with 2 shamblers, I will draw 2 tentacles from the bag, which can sometimes be very helpful because it can give you things like that, which can then help towards, I just don't want another blue one. Okay, good. I didn't get another blue one. If I got another blue one, I would go a little bit mad. So that was good. Okay, so that's quite an easy way to get tentacles. You just don't have any control over which ones you get. Is there any risk? That is not a wonderful card to have. So let's see, I've done 2 actions. I drew a tentacle and I moved. Now, I am going to attempt to banish a shambler because I want to show you how all the different things work. So, how you banish a shambler is you roll a number of dice equal to the number of shamblers at that location. So we'll roll up here, and we got a Cthulhu face, which represents a 0, and a singular tentacle. So the single tentacle means that you have to spend 1 tentacle of a matching color to banish a matching color shambler. So in this case, I could banish the red shambler by discarding my chaos tentacle, or I could banish the green shambler by discarding my green tentacle. That's what I'm going to do. So that goes over to the discard pile. This shambler goes back to the shambler mat. And now I pull down a number of tentacles from the shambler mat of that color, depending on how many rage tentacles I have on my mat. So it's the number of tentacles you have plus 1. So in this case, it is 1. If I had a red tentacle, I would pull down 2. 2 red tentacles, you'd pull down 3. As a player, you decide which shambler you're going to banish after you roll the dice. So you just roll the dice equal to the number of shamblers there, and then decide which one you want to banish. If I had rolled that, I didn't explain this very clearly. By rolling that, I rolled a 0 and a tentacle. So you always just take the highest value roll. So if I had rolled that, I wouldn't discard 2 tentacles, I would still just discard 1. However, if I had rolled that, I would then have to discard 2 tentacles of the same color, or chaos tentacles, to banish that shambler. And you can always choose not to if you want. So if I had rolled that and now I have to discard 2 and I have to discard my green and my chaos, I could decide, you know what, that's not worth it. Let's basically waste an action and not do the banish action. So that is basically how banishing works. Then, whenever you banish a shambler at a location, that's where this astral artifacts bonus comes in. I take one of these tokens and I place it on my character mat. And this one says, move up to 2 madness tentacles from your current location to your player mat. This will trigger if the Great Old One ever enters my location. you automatically trigger any artifacts you have and return their little tokens to their cards. So you don't have to do anything special, you just have to banish a shambler at your location to collect one of those. And you can only have one of each token type on your card. So if I banish this shambler on my next turn, I won't get another token to do that multiple times. You can only ever have one per card. I could spend a Chaos Tentacle to do another action, but I'm not going to because I won't be able to translate anything. So my Historian's special ability is that I can translate the page cards here and here, basically where I am, and then the location to my left and right. I'm not locked into only translating the one that I'm next to. But with the tentacles I have, I can't translate anything currently, so that is going to be my turn. The bag will move over to the scientist, and we will spin the wheel again. And they will draw an additional tentacle. So they're going to draw 4 tentacles from the bag. 1 Eldritch Tentacle goes on the Cthulhu mat. 2 Greed Tentacle goes on the town card. 3 goes on the town card. 4 is a Cultist Tentacle, so that goes over there. The Cultist moves over there. They collect a Greed Tentacle, and now they have filled their track. So as soon as they fill their track, they will now perform a spell, and they will release cultists onto the board. So they will discard these to the Shambler mat. So basically, whenever something is discarded as a negative effect, it goes to the Shambler mat. Whenever it's discarded by choice as a positive effect, like translating page cards, it goes to the discard mat. The cultist will discard the page card at their location, and they will place cultists from those rows. So they'll place this cultist and this cultist in their current location, and then they'll place 1 clockwise for each page card number. We will draw a new card face down over here. And these guys now make it harder for us to translate these pages. So for each cultist at a location, you have to discard an additional tentacle when translating a page card. And if the cult leader person is at the location, you have to discard an additional 2 tentacles. So to translate this, whatever it might be, you'd have to spend 3 extra tentacles over and above whatever the card requires. So that gets rather tricky. However, we can mitigate that by doing a new special action that is introduced in the expansion, which is to banish a cultist. So how you banish a cultist is you roll a number of dice equal to the number of runes you have in front of you. So basically the number of page cards you have, up to 3. Then you'll add up the tentacles on your dice, and if that number exceeds their strength, you can discard a cultist. And their strength is equal to how many there are. So if there's 1 cultist here, then they have a strength of 1. If there's 2, they each have a strength of 2, 3, and 3, so on. So in that instance, if I had spent an action, I would banish them, and I can place them back on the mat anywhere I want. And you'll see that basically they're going to come off in these rows. If all the cultists are gone, then they will add a tentacle to the discard mat. And if the tentacle is gone, they'll add an eldritch tentacle to the discard mat. And those basically will just accelerate how quickly bad stuff happens. Now we spawn a blue shambler over here. Ba-dum! And the great old one moves to where they already are. And it is the scientist's turn. So first thing they will do is collect. They will collect a green tentacular. They shall move towards here. They will draw tentacles. They can't. They will attempt to translate a page. They can't. They will banish shamblers. They can't. They're done. This is very annoying. They keep on just... look at all these shamblers out here. One of the best things that the assistant typically does is banish shamblers for you so you don't have to waste actions doing it. But instead, he's just hiding in the corner here. You're a very cowardly scientist. Oh dear. Okay, let me play out another turn and let's see where we go. Okay, that I would say is on that one, which puts a Chaos Tentacle from the General Supply on the discard mat. We draw 3 tentacles this time. 1, ba-dum, okay. That is an Eldritch Tentacle. Remember, we need to draw 2 more. So now that 3 of these have spawned on his mat, we take all of those. Everything on the discard mat gets put back in the bag. So this is one of the ways we replenish the draw bag. And his power, bong, increases by 1. So the first couple times, it's not a big deal because we're still just drawing 3, but it does gradually get worse. And then, let's see, we had drawn 1. This is our second one. Where are we pointing? Over there. Third one is a cultist. That goes there. He moves there, reveals the thing. Can't reveal the thing. He will draw blue. There are no blue, so he won't draw any. I think. Does he have to draw them in order? Maybe not. As I understand the rules, they will always only take the bottommost tentacle that they're looking for. I don't think they would take a red one because there's red ones available. I could be fully mistaken, and if so, please somebody from Gamelin Games or somebody who knows the rules better than I do, let me know down in the comments. But as I've understood it, they only look at the bottommost column. So that is making it slightly easier on me, but oh well, we'll see. We will now spawn a blue shambler over here. And Cthulhu will move back there. He's just hopscotching between these 2 locations. Now, something you haven't seen yet, so I'll just explain how it works because the Wheel of Madness has not deigned to land on it. It is my turn. Yes. Will be when it lands on one of these 3 spaces. There's a red, a blue, and a green. Those correlate to the powers on the Great Old One over here. For Cthulhu, if the spinner lands on this blue one, he will distribute all blue fear tentacles from the shambler mat to your choice of player's mats within the area of control of the Great Old One. So basically the location he's in and left and right of where he is. So he just spreads madness tentacles at an alarming rate. And each of them are basically the same. They just do the same action but for different colors. So if red lands on red, he distributes all the red ones, all the green ones, or all the blue ones. And the other way that these can trigger is if ever one of these tracks gets filled up, like this one here. If we draw a 4th red tentacle over here, then those all go to the shambler mat and we trigger his red power. And each of the Great Old Ones has a different power at the bottom here. So there's quite a lot of variety in the game with all the different Great Old Ones, all the different players. All the town cards are double-sided, so they've all got another side which is similar but different to the action on this side. Each location kind of does the same thing but in slightly different ways depending on which side of the town card you have. Let's see if I can translate something. I think I can translate that page over there. So I'm going to collect a greed. I am then going to collect a rage. And let's collect another rage. Okay, because now that I've got greed, I collect 2 tentacles, not 1. So that was 2 actions. Third action, I'm going to translate this page, because the historian can translate pages adjacent. So this page will place 1, 2, 3, and 5, and it will cost me 2 blue, a red, and a green. And I will place tokens on 1, whoopsie, 2, 3, and 5. And then this comes down to me over here. These will go to the discard mat. Then I am going to... I was going to spend a Chaos Tentacle to try banish him or banish him, but I'm not actually going to bother. Because if I banish this one, I'm just going to get that token, which I can't get because I've already got it. So that is going to be my turn. I'm going to call it quits. The bag will move over to the assistant. And I think I'm actually going to wrap it up there. I'm just going to quickly show you how phase 2 would work, because you've basically seen all the different actions, all the different things you can do. I've explained how this action would work. So let's just demonstrate how that action would work. If we spun the wheel and it landed, let's say over there, then it would trigger his red power, which would distribute all red tentacles from the shambler mat. So let's say he's currently here. So all of these red tentacles would come off the shambler mat and go onto the historian, because she's the only one within range of Cthulhu. She would have to distribute all of these on. So she'd put one there. If she puts a third one, she goes a little bit mad. So those would all get discarded back to the shambler mat, and she would tick her brain token up one step. And then we'd put the next two, like so. There is one benefit to going slightly mad, and that is you'll see here that there are these little reroll symbols. So whenever you are banishing a shambler, you may reroll that many dice. So when your first step up the madness rung, you can reroll 1 die, 2 dice, or 3 dice. So there's a little bit of a compensation for going a bit loopy. The assistant works a bit differently in that they always reroll all of their dice. So as a player, you can choose which one. So say, for instance, I rolled like that. I could choose to just reroll this, and there we go. Now my highest tentacle is a 1, so I would only have to discard 1 to do a banish action. The assistant, as they go more and more mad, will reroll all of their dice a number of times equal to their highest madness thing. So if they rolled 3 dice and they got that, and they don't want the 2 tentacles, they have to reroll all 3, and they can reroll them once at this level. That was worse. Twice at that level, or 3 times at that level. Remembering, if you ever go to that level, they go insane and we all lose. So, as soon as we have filled this Necronomicon here with these tokens, we will instantly, even if it's in the middle of a player's turn, flip the Great Old One. So let's say their power was up there. You immediately flip them, reset their power track. You would reset the discard mat, so all the tentacles on the mat would go back in the bag. Any tentacles on his card would go back in the bag. And then from that point on, you may end your turn and move through the location with the Great Old One. And that is then when the colored runes on these cards will come into effect. So in this instance, I've got a green and a blue. I've only got 1 of each, so that means that I would only roll 1 die when trying to close the green or the blue portal. And you're looking for a number of tentacle symbols on that die equal to the number shown. So obviously, by the time you translated that, you would have a lot more. So let's say I had this card over here, and I had this card over here. Now I've got 2 and 2. Let's say I've got this one over here. So now I've got 1 for red. I would attempt to close a portal. It's just an action. Let's say I want to close this green portal. I would roll 2 dice, and I would get 3 tentacles total, which would mean I could close that. You have to have a tentacle of the color portal you're trying to close, or a chaos tentacle, in order to attempt to close. So I would then, in this instance, take this chaos tentacle and cover up the 3 space. If you cover up both of these spaces, that will then disable that power from the Great Old One. So whenever the tentacle pointer lands on the green power, that will not trigger. And that is basically it. Once you have closed all 6 portals, that is how you win the game. Now, as I said at the beginning, Cthulhu is one of the toughest Great Old Ones you can fight against. I believe the easiest one is here, is Nyarlathotep. On this side, they are 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So they're much easier. You're pretty much almost guaranteed to close a portal when you roll the dice, because getting 1 tentacle is very easy. So they're pretty easy to take down. Then I think the next most difficult looks like Yogi with 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3. Then 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. And then, of course, 3, 4. And then I think their distribution of power is all the same. Okay, so on this side of their mats, they're all the same. It's just their portal locations that are more or less difficult. And I think that gives you a pretty good sense of how the game plays. You haven't seen absolutely everything. I'm sure there's little elements that I've left out. I haven't used any of the town location actions, but they're all fairly self-explanatory. And I shall leave those for you to discover on your own, should you get and play Tiny Epic Cthulhu. And with that, I shall say thank you ever so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the show. And remember to spread the joy of tabletop gaming.